getting the right tabs mentally aligned.
Just make sure that it's streaming in the Discord if we have to jump channels, Spec. Thanks.
Okay. Go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, I'm S2. I think so. So you may have noticed that Spec did change one thing on the car selection to, aside from the paint, which would be switching from automatic transmission to manual transmission. So not only can you just get a little bit better acceleration at the start here by using the manual transmission, but you will also be able to kind of take some turns a little bit better if you shift down instead of using the actual brakes. Engine braking instead will kind of help him out here to get around some of these corners better. And as you're watching here, you may be like, oh my god, what is going on? Because Spec is just barely even touching the road at all. And that is actually why he's choosing the Jimny, because this thing loses no speed going off-road, so it is just insanely busted for skipping all of the corners and skipping all of the track, which I think may be a little disappointing to some who were expecting to really show off their good driving skills in this speedrun. Me, perhaps, but I don't know. What do you think about this car, Spec? Yeah, I think so. Oh, yeah. Yes. Yes, like Spec said, there's a lot of stages here that are almost completely off-road. This is one of them. There's about 10 stages in the game, and a boss fight. If I'm remembering correctly, it comes up to a total of 11. But there is a second speedrun category for this, which is choice run. You may have seen it in the menu. So this one will be seeing a showcase of all the stages here. But there's also an outrun style game mode where you can choose different routes, and you'll go through 5 stages, and it's a lot shorter of a run. But this will really showcase all of the environments that we get to see here, and show off the game's wonderful soundtrack as well. I personally enjoy some of the tunes of this game. So there are these oil slicks here, which you do have to be a little bit careful about going over. Spec is just driving right over them, and that's okay if you're driving straight, but if you're driving at an angle, if you're trying to turn over them, you can spin out, and so it can be a little bit tricky to get around the course and actually be taking the turns that you need to, while also making sure that you go over things like that without spinning out, because you will lose a lot of time if you spin out your car. But since we're just going off-road a lot here, one of the main things we really want to be doing is just going as close to the walls as we can physically get while still being in the right direction. Basically, we're just trying to get to the end as fast as possible, as you do in a racing game, you know? It definitely looks a little strange. But talking on other categories too, if you're really the world's biggest Jimny hater and you're like, I want to play the game, but I despise the Jimny, there is a different category, which is unrestricted, where you can play as characters and with cars that are found with the cheat code you get from beating the game. Now, Spec did mention it earlier, there's one character who does have gameplay differences, which is one of these unlockable characters, and it basically just maxes out all of the car's stats when you play as her. So there is the option to play any car with her, or play with the police car, which we did not get to see on the level select, unfortunately, or on the car select screen, unfortunately. But there's also, you probably have seen kind of sitting around, we just passed one, so made me think of it. There are items in this game, as you can see by the little item slot at the top of the screen. There's only one kind of item that we actually want to get. There's a few kinds of them, and they have pretty similar to like Mario Kart results of just being things that you can throw at other racers, which Spec is moving so fast we haven't seen one in a while, but you can use a lot of these things as weapons, but there is one that is a speed boost. It's a can of, I guess, nitrous that that we're trying to get. There's no real way to like get these things, and a lot of the other items will look like them, so sometimes you'll get tricked into thinking there's one and there's not. But all you can really do is just hope that they'll spawn, and then hope that they're in a good spot that you can pick them up. So this run unfortunately does kind of rely on some RNG. Sometimes items will spawn like out of bounds, and it can be really frustrating, but if you're really lucky, you'll get a few nitros in a run and you'll be able to save a lot of time with that. This level specifically is pretty cool to watch because there's a lot of holes in these walls that Spec will be using to kind of shave off some time here. It's pretty hard to see them if you don't know where they are exactly because of the Mode 7 walls. The whole game pretty much just takes place on a flat plane, so it's pretty hard to see like where things are if you aren't really familiar with the level. So this one is one that requires a lot of memorization. Also a lot of U-turns, a lot of really sharp turns, and a lot of these random little blocks that are scattered throughout the fields that make it especially hard when you're trying to cut corners. Definitely one of the more tricky levels in the game. But not as tricky as some of the later levels, specifically the final boss. I know you were saying you wanted to talk a little bit about the boss, Spec. Okay. Okay. So if I am the only one that can be heard, then yes, I will delve into that a little bit. So the boss of this game is also the character I was talking about on the character select thing, who gets maxed out stats. I believe she actually just straight up rubber bands like slightly ahead of you in that boss fight. I don't think it's played super fairly, but she will always just be like a lot faster than you. And normally, you would just have to rely on like getting items and pretty much just bullying her the whole race so that she won't get too far ahead. But there is actually a pretty cool skip that we are going to get to see in that level. It's I think it's the only skip of the game, but it's really neat. It's really interesting, honestly. So that will be something to look out for when we get there. I'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually get to that point. Right now we are going through this level, the mountaintops level or whatever. I'm not sure. Yeah. So there was those big ravines that surround the level, and Spec took some pretty narrow bridges to get through the level, but thankfully he didn't fall off, which is very good because this game is absolutely brutal if you're to fall off the road into a pit. The game will actually bring you back Mario Kart style, but you'll be turned backwards, so you'll have to make a full 180 just to get back onto the track in the correct position that you need to be. So it is absolutely brutal to fall off. You'll lose a lot of time doing it. Thankfully, that did not happen. This level has its own unique mechanic, which is the slippery ice sections. The dark blue ice, there's a nitro like I was talking about, but this dark blue ice that we're going to come up on makes you turn kind of differently from how you normally do. It's more slippery and you'll spin out really easily, so you kind of have to feather your steering a little bit to not do that. Yeah, you can still turn super tightly as long as you're just not holding down the turn button. It'll work out. Yeah, this level just kind of combines some of the earlier hazards with the oil spills and the ravines, but it's nothing too crazy. I think this one utilizes also kind of like a figure 8 pattern where you jump over an earlier part of the path. So, yep. Or maybe not, but it uses those jump pads again, so this one's kind of just... Yeah, that's right. But yeah, this one is just kind of a trickier version of the mountain one, I feel like. It's nothing too special. That is an excellent question. Yeah, I am not really sure who Cat is. I've done a little bit of digging. I assumed that Cat was the final boss of the game, but I found out I was wrong about that. So who really knows who Cat is exactly? But it's their run, I guess. This is by far the worst level of the game. I think probably most of the runners will agree on that, but it does have a lot of these sections where you can just cut through the rice and get big skips on the level. So this is another one that requires a ton... Oh, fell off. We're going to see that respawn where you spawn backwards and how mean the game can be. But yeah, you can skip lots of this level. It's got very wide boundaries, so we're gonna see Spec taking a lot of these corners off of the road for a long time, this level definitely requires a lot of memorization because the thick like green barriers you can't go through, but the thinner ones you can. It can be really hard to tell which walls you can or can't go over. So this level can be just insanely tricky to really figure out and understand where you are and aren't supposed to go. Oh, got another nitro. This is turning up to be a pretty solid later half with a few nitro drops. Especially this level, generally don't see many items in here. Yeah. Another thing about items is that when you are holding one, other items won't spawn. So it can be tricky to gauge whether it's worth it to hold a nitro or use it. You generally want to use them at spots where you're going to get a lot of utility out of them and not like fall off or bonk into walls. But yeah, but Spec got a really good usage out of it there where he used the first one and pretty much immediately a second one spawned. So sometimes you'll get lucky with things like that. This level is, I think, the only level that's really pretty much fully paved since the first level. So this is where some of your lighter cars, like the ABC trilogy, would get better use, but the Jimny's still able to pretty easily fly through it, so no stress there. Yeah, the nitro only saves so much time, so it's not always worth it to like slow down and get one, and the hitboxes on the items are incredibly small. It's very easy to miss the nitros. Alright. Here we are on the last level, so you're gonna see Miki come flying up past Spec and she's just gone. Totally zooming past us, but we're gonna get ahead with a little bit of a skip here. So there's gonna be two puddles on the ground coming up, and on the second one we're just gonna go straight through a wall. I will point it out when we get there. But yeah, there, like, you can just see how incredibly fast she is, that we're driving, we're cutting all the corners, and she's still just barely even in our sight at all. So this fight can be kind of unfair. We got very lucky RNG here with another nitro. And it should be coming right up about here. Yep, so Spec is going to drive onto this thing, getting him to spin out and go straight through that corner. Now would be, yep, where he uses the nitro to get a little bit of speed on that straightaway. And that puts us pretty close to the end of the track here. So time is going to be coming up. There will be a green finish line on the ground. And then time... Yeah, that's right. Time is on the final screen, you're right. But, yep, there we go. Hey, congratulations. Yeah, I think that's I think you summed it up pretty well. Thank you for running this game, Spec. I certainly don't think there would have been very much optimization without the contributions that you made to lowering the times and figuring some of the things out. You and R, who is one of the other runners of this game. So Shout out the yeah, so I'll be S2 live on Twitch. I run this game, a few other racing games if you're interested in this this genre of games. And yeah. Yes, thank you.